Hey, Jason, good to see you on here. Hope everybody's doing well with dealing with this virus. I know it's a pain in the butt. Okay, so we got sound. Everything's good to go. All right.
We are good.
All right. Let me start off. Thanks for all attending and coming to the show. Really appreciate it. And I thought I would do some paranormal chat since I saw other people that were doing like book readings and concerts and that. And due to spring looks like it's booked with this virus, I won't be able to do any guest speakings here in the Nashville area. And I knew I had some people on Facebook that can't come see me in person. So I thought I could do a free live show here on Facebook for those that aren't able to come see my lectures and that. So that's why I'm doing this. And let everybody hear my story. Some of you have heard some of it already. I'll try to add some new stuff that I haven't shared before. So let's start. All right.
Sounds good. I hope you guys are all doing good out there and staying healthy.
That's Monique. She's losing her voice.
Hey, I'm losing my voice, but I'm doing good. And we're all staying healthy here. We're actually on isolation right now. We're not going anywhere except to the grocery store every 3 or 4 weeks. And hopefully this virus will not last that long. So Mike, continue.
All right. So paranormal journey started at age 5. I lived in Western New York. I lived in a small town called Lakeville in the Finger Lakes area. And when I was 5 years old, I had gone to bed. And I was laying there in bed and I felt like someone was standing in the room behind me watching me. So I rolled over and I looked and there was a little girl in a white Victorian dress with jet black hair and curls. And thought my eyes were playing tricks at first. Thought maybe my sisters were playing a joke. So I rolled over to try to ignore it and had this feeling that it was stronger, that someone was standing closer. And when I rolled over, there she was standing next to my bed and looking right at me and smiled and waved. And I immediately jumped out of bed, ran down the stairs as fast as I could. My parents were still up. They were watching TV in the living room. And my dad, was like, what the hell's going on? And I said, I think I just saw a ghost in my room. It was a little girl. And both my parents, brushed it off. They said, just your active imagination. There's no such thing as ghosts. There's nothing to be afraid of. You need to go back to bed. And so that started me questioning about ghosts. All through school, I would go to the library and sign out books on mysteries and stuff like that. I loved the series In Search Of. I used to watch that. That had a few things on ghosts and that. And, but still was very skeptical. I saw other people talking on shows saying they saw a ghost, and from what my parents were saying that they didn't exist. So were these people imagining it like me? And later on in life, as a teenager, I had some ghost encounters. I had relatives that would show up. Later on in the Air Force, I had one appear at one of the posts I was working at the base of airmen in tan khakis there. And that gave me a spook. I thought some of the guys were playing a joke on me on post. And from research on the base I was at, found out that there was several other people that had the same encounter with the same ghost that I saw, which was pretty cool. But 1994 was the huge life change. That's made me a hardcore believer, and also my mom. So as I go on, feel free to ask any questions. My wife will take the questions, and I'll try to answer them as I go along.
Well, I mentioned that you were going to answer questions after every segment.
Oh, okay. So anyway, 1994, my dad was diagnosed with cancer, and we had him at home with home care. And at the time, we hadn't started hospice yet. His health was somewhat decent, but he was pretty weak. He was able to sleep in his own bed at the time. And this was probably late May, early June when this happened. And I just went to say goodnight to him. I helped him with a glass of water. He wasn't strong enough to hold the glass. I had to guide the straw for him to drink out of. And so I said goodnight to him. And about 3 o'clock in the morning, I woke up in a panic. I heard my dad screaming for me for help. I heard my mom screaming for help. And so I ran out of my bedroom and ran over to their room and asked them what's going on. My dad is standing up perfectly fine and terrified. Never seen my dad scared in my whole life. And he was freaking out. And he goes, Mike, you got to help me. He goes, I think they got your mom. She's not listening to me. And we need to call Washington, D.C. and warn them. And I'm like, well, what's wrong? Is everything okay? You're having a bad dream? Or he's like, no. And he goes, don't you see them? And I said, what am I supposed to be seeing? And he points to the end on the wall there across from their bed. And there was a huge dresser that was my mom's with a big wall mirror. And he says, don't you see it? They're nailing people to crosses upside down. And they're pointing tridents, spears. And he goes, they're telling me that I'm next. And I'm like, no, I don't see that. Now, my dad at the time was on morphine for pain. So immediately I'm thinking that's what it is. He would not calm down. I told my mom she needed to go next door and wake up our neighbor. Our neighbor was a Baptist minister. And she went to ask him for help. And while she was gone, I'm trying to calm my dad down. And he immediately leaves his bedroom and goes out to our kitchen area where the phone is and asks for help. And he's like, I need to grab the phone and call the police. And I said, no, everything's fine. You just need to calm down. And he's like, Mike, we got to warn them. There's something evil coming to the United States. It's coming from Africa. They're going to end up destroying several cities, possibly Miami, Atlanta, New York City. And I'm like, I don't understand. I'm confused. And he's like, even the Pentagon's in danger. We need to warn them. And so he grabbed the phone and he was trying to dial 911. So I couldn't get my dad's very strong. He's about 6 foot tall. And so I ended up pulling the cord out of the wall so he couldn't make the call. So he got mad and he went out to our living room to the side door. We had a patio and he tried to go out there in the patio. And I'm trying to get him back in the house. And luckily the porch door jams and he couldn't get it open to get outside. He was trying to escape. So I'm trying to come down to lure him back in the living room. I said, here, I'll help you make the phone call. So he comes back into the living room area. And I said, all right, look, you just need to come down. You go back to bed. And mom's trying to get help. And he starts arguing with me. So I'm trying to restrain him because he was trying to escape again. So I put my hands behind his back, up around his neck, going behind it like that. But I'm trying to be careful because he had cancer in the spine and plus numerous other places. But especially in the spine, I wanted to be real careful. And when he realized I was trying to restrain him, my dad ended up picking me up. Now, this is the same guy that night couldn't even hold a glass of water. He lifted me up in the air and threw me across the living room. And I ended up having my back slammed into a fireplace that we had. We had a huge Georgia quartz fireplace and ended up slammed into the fireplace. And then he went out into the other room where the main entrance of the house is. And luckily at that time, my mom and the minister came back into the house. And they were trying to calm him down. And they got him back into the bedroom. And he kept on going, we need to warn, the Pentagon's going to get attacked. The New York City or these other cities are possibly in danger and it's coming from Africa. And the minister ended up getting my dad to calm down finally. And after he had calmed down, the minister comes out of the room and he goes, Mike, your dad wants to talk to you. And so I was like, all right. So I go in there and
excuse me, Mike, Stephen Hill would like to say hi.
Hi, Stephen. Thanks for joining the show. So I go in there and I'm kind of hesitant to go in the room all the way. I'm standing just at the doorway. And he goes, everything's okay now. And I said, okay, what do you mean? He goes, the demons are gone and everything's better now. And I said, okay, that's good. And he goes, the angels came. And I said, the angels? And he goes, yeah. He goes, there's one standing right behind you. So I look behind me. There's no one standing behind me. But to the left of me, there's this Victorian cherub that my mom had hanging on the bedroom wall. And I said, oh, are you talking about the angel here on the wall? And my dad goes, typical response from my dad. And my dad goes, no, you dumbass. He goes, the tall 6 foot plus man standing behind you with blonde hair and blue eyes. And I'm like, okay. And 1 second, my wife's asking me something.
Did you say that this has to do with 9/11?
Yeah, this later on, we didn't realize it at the time. So afterwards, when my dad calmed down and he finally got to sleep, my mom and I were talking about, what had happened, and we're all blown away and amazed. And I said, well, it must, it's probably the drugs. And she thinks the same thing. So the next morning I get up and my mom comes up to me and she goes, hey, your dad wants to talk to you. He's in bed. So I go in there and he's back to his normal self. He's kind of weak. And he goes, and I was kind of hesitant still. I didn't want to come in all the way in the room. And he asked me to come down and sit at the end of the bed at least. And he goes, hey, your mom said it was really crazy and last night. And I said, yeah. And he goes, she said that I heard you last night. And he goes, I would never do that. And I said, yeah. I said, last night you were saying all these things that you witnessed, and you literally lifted me up in the air. And at that time, I was about 150 pounds. He had thrown me probably about at least, I would say 12, 15 feet across the room. It was a big living room we had. Our living room was 12 foot across and 30 feet long. And he was really shocked. And so I lifted up my shirt and I showed my back, and my back was all scratched up and bruised up from hitting the rocks. And he was just, in shock. And so later on, as time went on through our lives, when 9/11 happened, I go, oh my God, back in 94, was this the premonition that Dad was talking about? Was this what he was trying to warn us about? Because, New York City ended up being hit, and then the Pentagon also was hit. So that kind of freaked us out when, 9/11 happened. I called my mom and said, hey, do you know this is matching what Dad talked about in 94? So at the time when that happened in 94, we just chalked it up as possibly my dad having a reaction with morphine, and didn't think much about it. It ended up getting worse. He was moved out of his bedroom and put into the living room in a hospital bed, and we had hospice care. And about mid-June, he went into a coma, and he was out for multiple days. And the nurse came up to us one night, and the hospice was working like every other day. My mom and I would help cover. Plus, we had a family friend that we hired as a nurse who filled in between when hospice wasn't there. And so they said, well, we're off tomorrow, but his temperature is really, really high. And we feel that he's going to pass away tonight due to his high temperature. Do you want us to stay? And my mom says, no, that's okay. We'll be fine. We'll take care of him. And so hospice told us, if you need us, feel free to call at any time. We'll be here. So they had left, and later that night, my mom goes, I'm going to stay at his side. You can go to bed. And I said, yeah, that's fine. That'd be good. So I said, if he does pass away, please come wake me and let me know. So my mom's there at his side, and about 3 o'clock in the morning, my dad passes away. And she's at his side, and she's grieving for probably about a half hour. And she finally gets the strength to go to wake me up to let me know my dad had passed away. And before she could leave the living room, my dad sat up out of the bed and says, where are you going? I need to talk to you. Now, this is a guy that was in a coma for almost a week. The time he was in the hospital bed, he had to be assisted to be fed, and his talk was labored in that. And here he is, and all of a sudden sitting up out of the bed, been dead for at least 30 minutes. And she was in shock. And she went over and sat next to him, and he goes, look, I begged them to let me come back. I needed to make sure that you and Mike are going to be okay once I'm gone. And they ended up talking for the rest of the morning till about 7 o'clock in the morning. And my dad, during that time, talked to people that he knew and my mom knew that had passed away prior. He was talking to family members, people that he knew in Vietnam that were killed. He was talking to his first wife, who passed away in 1963 from cancer. She was Japanese. He had met her when he was stationed in Japan. And during that time, he talked to his first wife in fluent Japanese and interpreted back and forth to my mom, and said that thank you for taking care of him on this side, and that he'll be fine on the other side. By that time, it was almost like 7 o'clock in the morning. My mom says, look, I need to go wake up Mike and let him know that he's okay. That my dad's up. And so my dad goes, well, before you go get him, let me get up and take a shower. He goes, I like to freshen up. This really shocks my mom. And she's like, well, let me help you. And he's like, no, I got it. And here's this guy that couldn't even walked across the living room, went to his own bedroom, and went into the shower, and was taking a shower. 1 second.
At least 3 people have said they had interference with your video the moment you said that your father was resurrected.
Oh, wow. That's interesting. So he took a shower and dressed himself, and my mom went to my bedroom to wake me up. By that time, it was almost 8 o'clock in the morning. And she goes, hey, I need to let you know something. So immediately I thought my dad had passed away. And I said, did Dad pass away? And she's like, well, yes and no. She goes, I don't know how to tell you this or describe it. You need to come see for yourself. So got out of bed and started heading to the living room because he was in the hospice bed in there. And she goes, no, he's not there. He's in his own bed. Well, that shocked me. I was like, how did he get in his own bed? And so I go over towards the bedroom door, and there's my dad in bed, full color, looked healthy as can be. And he's like, hey, Mike, I need to talk to you. And he's like, come here and sit next to me. So I'm like in total shock. And he goes, look, I begged them to let me come back. And I don't know who them is, but he said, I needed to come and tell your mom that I'm going to be okay and that you guys don't need to worry about me, that everything's going to be fine. And so I was like, wow, okay. So we start talking, and he goes, do you have any questions? Now I got tons, but then I was just in shock. I didn't know what to say. I said, well, it's a little late to, ask you for help on how to use your tools and work on the car and that. And he apologized for that. And that he was sorry that he was really strict, and he felt that he was too firm with me at times, and wished that he had showed me how to use his tools and stuff. So we got talking, and I said, well, he apologized, and I said, that's all right. You've had it pretty rough, and my dad did 22 years in the Army, and he was, stationed in Korea, and he was in Vietnam. And so he had a pretty rough childhood. And so I said, you've had it pretty rough. So he's like, no, I haven't had it rough. And I'm like, I don't know about that. I mean, he'd been battling cancer since 1984. And for 10 years, he was battling it. So I said, well, who's had it rougher than you? Now, this comment my dad says after I asked him that, I about fell off his bed. I was in shock. I'm not preaching religion or anything, but this is what my dad said. He says, I said, who's got it rougher than you, Dad? And he goes, Jesus has got it rough. And I was like, what? Now, my dad, the whole time I grew up with him, was not a churchgoer. He pretty much was against, religions. He saw a lot of bad stuff in the world, and he felt, he was somewhat of an atheist, I guess you could say, but he was spiritual in some ways. And to him to say Jesus, the only time I ever heard him say Jesus was when he was cussing. And so that just shocked me. And so we're done talking, and he goes, well, if there's nothing else you want to ask me, I go, I don't know what to say. I'm in shock. So he goes, well, I guess I'm ready to go back. So he calls my mom in, and he goes, I guess I'm ready to go. He goes, I'm glad I could see you guys, and you guys are going to be fine. I'm ready to go back. And he goes, I'm not sure, when they're coming to get me. And Mom goes, well, I don't know how this works. Maybe you need to go to sleep. So we said our goodbyes, and he went to sleep, and we were out in the living room, and she's sharing all the things that happened to her that night. And we're out there talking. We're just in total shock. And about 11 o'clock, we hear my dad yelling from the bedroom. He's like going, hello, is anybody there? And we were, like, is that Dad yelling out for us? So we go running to the bedroom, and we're like, I said, what's up? And he goes, what are you guys doing here? And we said, well, we live here. And he's like, they didn't come get me? And we're like, no, I guess not. And so he's like, well, I'm ready to go. He goes, I don't understand why I'm still here. And my mom's like, well, maybe they're giving you a pass. I don't know how this works. Maybe they're giving you some extra time. And so he goes, well, I'm hungry. So immediately, we think of his normal diet that he's had for about a month, which was a liquid diet. He used to have protein shakes and soups and stuff like that. So we offered that. What would you like? And he's like, no, I don't want that. I want some real food. Mike, cook me up something, He says, matter of fact, he goes, my wallet's up there on the dresser. He says, go to Publix. Take some of my money and go shopping at Publix. 1 second.
Well, it seems that at the time you were mentioning Jesus, that our video scrambled.
Oh, well.
But some people think it's just IT problems. So
well, it
could be just that the
I know
web
Facebook
is
Live
overloaded.
blocks up sometimes.
Yes.
So I run down to Publix as fast as I can. This is 1994. I don't have a cell phone, so I don't even know if he's going to be still alive when I get back. And so I'm going as fast as I can. I go to Publix, and I go to the seafood department, and they had live crawfish. So I grabbed some crawfish. I grabbed corn on the cob, some red potatoes, and even bought a 6-pack of beer, and even grabbed a movie rental just in case he wanted to watch a movie. And I rushed back home. I get home. He's walking around in the house talking to my mom. Looked as healthy as, person would be. And he helped me cook the meal. We sat at the kitchen table and ate dinner. And after dinner, we went out to the living room and actually watched the movie. And after that, he's like, I'd rather go relax in my own bed. And so the rest of the day, we stayed in his own bed and went through family photo albums and videos and shared family stories. And about that time, it was almost midnight. And he's like, I'm exhausted. And he says, I'm ready to go back to sleep. And so we go, all right, and we'll let you go to sleep. And he goes, just in case I don't wake up in the morning, he goes, I want to let you guys know that everything's going to be okay. I'm going to be fine. And that, I love you guys. And if I can, I'll give you some signs from the other side and let you know I'm still around and letting you know that, that I love you and I'm watching over you. So we're like, okay. I was still like in shock. And it was hard to go to sleep. My mom, and I finally got to sleep. And 8 o'clock in the morning, the doorbell rings and it ends up being hospice. And my mom comes running in my bedroom, and she's like, Mike, hospice is here. And I was like, okay, let him in. She goes, I don't know what to do. And I said, what do you mean? She goes, Dad's in his own bed, and he's back in a coma. And she goes, what am I going to tell him? I said, tell him what happened. And so we went to the door, and we let him in, and they came in, and the lady was like in a real hurry. And she starts walking towards the living room and where his hospital bed is. And she's like, oh my God, where's he at? And we're like, he's in his own bed. And she got mad. She was furious at my mom and I. She's like, how dare you move him? And we're like, no, you don't understand. Yesterday, he died and came back to life. And she gave us like a look like, you guys are nuts kind of look. And we're like, no, you don't understand him. And my mom, finally said, just let it go. We know what happened. They don't believe us. And so she's chastising my mom and I, and she called for help, and they transferred him back to the living room to a hospital bed. And my dad passed away several days later on June 23rd. After he passed away the second time, when they came to take his body out of the house, we went outside, and there was a double rainbow that you could see from our front yard. And my mom thought that was a possible sign, since it was two rainbows, and it was, two of us. Later on, we had his funeral, and my mom and I went to the funeral, and we came home, and I decided to make her a nice dinner. And I said, do you want to have dinner at the table and I can play the jukebox, or we can sit in front of the TV and watch the news? And she's like, well, I'd rather watch the news. So I said, all right. So I go and get her a plate. I bring it out to the living room. I set the plate down in front of her. I go back out in the kitchen to go get my plate. Now, as I'm dishing up my plate, I hear the jukebox start selecting a record. So I'm thinking to myself, oh, Mom's decided to listen to music instead. All of a sudden, the jukebox is blaring loud, super loud music. My mom's yelling from the living room. She's like, hey, I thought we weren't going to do the jukebox. And I yell, I thought it was you. And she's like, no. And so I was like, okay. So put my food down, and I go out to the jukebox, and it's all lit up, and it's cranking music. And so I said, well, let me turn it off. So the back of the jukebox, there's an on and off switch. And as I go back there to turn off the on and off switch, I look down, and there's the plug laying on the floor. It's not even plugged into the wall outlet. Now, the jukebox is all lit up, and it's selected it's got 145s in it. And each side has, an A and B side. So you got 200 songs to select from. And it ended up picking Garth Brooks' record, which I had in there. If Tomorrow Never Comes. So I pick up the plug, and I go to my mom, no way. And she's like, what? And I hold the plug up, and she's like, no. And I said, yeah. And she goes, how's that possible? I go, I don't know. And the music's still playing. And after we realize it, she goes, do you think, is that your dad, giving us a message? I said, what else could it be? And then as we're talking about that, the lights start dimming on the jukebox, and the record comes to a slow stop, and it died out. And so we're blown away. So for a moment, let me slide off to the side here. And as you can see, this is the jukebox behind me. I haven't been able to sell the jukebox. When I have company over, I tell them it's the magical jukebox. And so I have it on and lit up for you guys. This is the way it looked the day it was playing music. So let me pause at that moment. And I have a few more things, the messages my dad did, but I'll go for any questions from what I've shared so far. I need a little drink, so I'll let you guys ask any questions.
That sounds really good. The situation is I can't type in the chat room right now because it says I'm up to my limit.
Oh, okay. And
I don't know if anybody else is having that problem. But if you have any questions, please ask away.
Okay. That's weird that there's a limit on it.
Are you able to see chat?
Yeah, I can see some of the chat. I can see some of the chat. So if you have a question, feel free to write it.
I can't see it.
Okay. That's weird. He's scrolling down. And thanks for all those who joined in later into the show. I appreciate it. Okay, so after the jukebox incident, we had other encounters that happened. One of the things when we had our little talk, I asked him, I said, what are you going to miss, once you go back, cross over? And one of the things he said he was going to miss was he had planted an avocado tree, a pineapple plant, and an orange tree. And he said, I planted those and was looking forward to eating the fruit off those, but I never got a fruit off it. And so he goes, I was really wishing that I had fruit on that. And so that year, those 3 plants only produced 2 fruits. We had 2 avocados, 2 pineapples, and 2 oranges.
Excuse me, Mike, we have a question from Shirley. She was wondering if you told that to her dad.
No, I'm not sure. I don't think we did. We didn't. The only person I think we shared it was my grandmother. I think that was the only person we shared at the moment, because we were still in shock and like, is this really real? We're like, wow.
And then we have someone else that would like to know, did you take any pictures of this event?
No, we didn't. I mean, we didn't think of it. I mean, we were just like in total shock. I had a video camera at the time, and I didn't even think of pulling that out. So the other later on that Christmas of '94. Let me go prior to that. At the time, I was working for the space program, and I was doing security for a while, and I lost my job of security, and then I went to the postal department. And when I was working in the postal, there was having a real bad day there. And I went into one of the rooms. They just did a huge layoff. They laid off about 2,000 people. And so I went into one of the vacant offices and went to fall asleep on a desk. And it felt like I had like an out-of-body experience. It was really crazy. And I felt myself lifting out of my body and went down this tunnel of light. And it got real bright. And then all of a sudden, in this big field of wildflowers and beautiful mountains in the background, kind of remind me of Montana. If you've ever been to Montana. And my dad was there in the field, and he greeted me. It was 1994, 94 during this time period. And so my dad told me, he goes, look, this job ain't worth it. Trust me, better things are to come. He goes, you need to go. And I felt so good there with him. I wanted to stay. And he's like, you can't stay. And I literally felt myself being pulled out of it and going back into my body. And I was like in such shock, what had happened. And immediately left the room, walked up to my boss and said, by the way, tomorrow I'll be bringing in my 2-week notice. And I went home and told my mom, what had happened. And so that was one of the times he contacted us. And then Christmas of '94, my dad did Christmas really, really big. His gift to the family was making really fancy gourmet dinners. And he would buy the top shelf of everything. He would save money all year to make these big fancy meals. And so I had just gone to the store and I bought a 2-foot tall, it was about 2 to 3 foot tall angel. And I said, this is a perfect gift for my mom. And I left the store and I was carrying it out to my car. And as I was...
Excuse me, Mike. Did your dad say if he saw God or angels or Jesus when he was on the other side?
On the other side, yeah. He said he saw Jesus, and that's why he said Jesus has had it rough. And then, of course, he talked to relatives. And then the relatives, when he was talking to my mom, he was saying they were in the room. He was like interpreting back and forth to my mom and relaying messages. And he spoke fluent Japanese in that. And interpreted back and forth with my mom and his first wife. So as I'm loading the angel back into the car, I smelled cigar smoke, and I thought, wow, someone's being really, really rude. And looked around, and there's nobody around. And So I get into the car and I start smelling cigar smoke in my car. Now I don't let anybody smoke in my car. And I'm like, where is this coming from? And then all of a sudden I hear my dad's voice in my head go, Mike, you need to go to Tokyo Market. And I was like, I'm losing it, thinking, what the hell's going on? And I keep on hearing him arguing. He's like, look, you need to go to Tokyo Market. So I'm about ready to break down crying, and I, speak out loud, and I'm going, Dad, if that's you, I smell the cigar smoke. It's on my list to go because it was way on the other side of town where I was at. And I'm planning to go there later today. And he goes, no, you need to go now. So I was like, all right, I'm going. So drove over to this place as fast as I could. The cigar smoke disappeared in my car the whole trip over there. And I get out of the car when I arrive. And as I'm walking towards the store, I can smell the cigar smoke again. And I walk in the store, and as soon as you walk in the door, there's this display case. And I see something, and I hear my dad's voice goes, no, don't bother looking at that. You need to keep on, go to the left aisle all the way at the end, and it will be in the last case on the left-hand side. So I went down there, and I get to the last case, and I look in there, and there was this imported food that he had been trying to get for years from this Japanese import store. And I grabbed every bit of it, and I go up to the register, and the cashier's like, oh, no, you're not buying all that, are you? And I said, yeah. And they go, she goes, well, we have a real loyal customer here, but we've lost his phone number. And can you, any chance, leave a couple of those for other people? I really appreciate that. And I said, just in case he even comes back, we'd like him to have some. And I said, well, what's the guy look like? And she starts describing my dad. So I open my wallet and I pull out a picture of my dad. And I go, is this the guy? And she goes, oh my God, that's him. We haven't seen him in a long time. And I said, well, that's my dad. He passed away. And I'm a son. I think he would want me to have these. I know he's been wanting this for a long time. And she's like, oh yeah, please, take it all. So I didn't tell her that I heard his voice and telling me to come there. So I purchased the stuff and I start going out the door. And as I'm leaving the place, I hear my dad's voice, and he goes, Merry Christmas to you and your mom. And of course, I start tearing up again, and I get in the car and I said, I'm done Christmas shopping. I'm going straight home. And I get home and I tell my mom to go sit down in the living room and close her eyes. And I walk in the living room, and I'm carrying the big angel. And I set it in front of her. And I said, you can open your eyes. Merry Christmas. And she's like, all amazed with the angel. And she goes, oh, you should have waited to Christmas. It's not Christmas yet. And I said, well, I think it's meant to be that you should have it now. And I have a story that goes with the angel. So I tell her what had happened. And then I hand her the bag, and I said, this is from Dad, Merry Christmas. And of course we, both break down crying, and thanking, for the sign and the gift from him. So that was some of the contacts he did after he had passed away. Now, his death happened in June, and then in August, other things changed. So before I go into August, is there any questions of the things that happened, with my dad before I go any further? Yeah, agreed, Jason. My dad was bossy even after he passed.
Well, I think that kind of runs in the family.
Yeah.
But it is really nice to have a connection with people on the other side. And I see sometimes we're being so hectic with our ordinary lives, we don't notice our loved ones thinking of us and trying to communicate with us.
Okay, well, I'll go into August. August 94. Things took a sudden drastic change. Early August, I think it was around the first week of August, I woke up at it's around 3 o'clock in the morning again. That time period comes up quite often. And I thought someone had broken into the house. I thought someone was in my bedroom. And So I slept with a pistol near my headboard. I used to be in the Air Force Police and slept with a gun. And I did security for a while for the space program and that. And so I tried to reach for my gun. And before I can get to my gun, someone grabbed me by the ankles and started pulling me out of my bed. And I tried to break free. I finally broke free. And I got back up to the headboard, tried to hit the light on my headboard and to grab my gun. And before I could get to it, someone jumped on my back and pushed my face into my pillow. And, I couldn't breathe. I was being pushed into it. And I was trying to scream to let my mom know that someone was in the house. And I finally broke free, grabbed my gun, hit the light, and nobody's in my room. I couldn't see anybody. And my bedroom door was closed on top of it. And I'm like, what the hell just happened? So I'm like all freaking out. I leave my room. I go wake up my mom to let her know what had happened. And I wake her up and I'm telling her I just got attacked in my room. And she's like, well, you sure it's not PTSD from the Gulf War? And I said, no, it was nothing like that. It was nothing like that at all. And she's like, well, let me wake up. I'm going to go wash my face. So she walked out of the room to go wash her face to wake up. And the moment I started hearing something coming down the hallway towards the room, and this big force of energy hit me square in the chest. It was like someone tackled me from like a football player. And I lifted right off the floor and was thrown about, I would say, 6 to 10 feet back and slammed into her bedroom wall. And she was just coming out of the bathroom, washing her face, and she see me get slammed into the wall. And she's like, holy crap, are you okay? What happened? Did you lose your balance? I said, how do I lose my balance from way over there to here? I'm like, I'm being attacked again. It's back, whatever it is. And so she's like in shock. I'm in shock. I'm terrified. And all of a sudden I'm like, it grabbed me. And when it grabbed me, I'd be paralyzed. I couldn't move. And she could witness all the hair on my arms, and I wasn't wearing a shirt. The hair on my chest was standing straight up. And so she was keeping calm pretty good on it. Everybody still see? Okay. Here I'm being attacked. My mom's calm all through this, which was amazing. And I'm like, it's just grabbed me. It just let go of me. It was going on back and forth. And this lasted for a half hour. And during it, she decides, look, I'm going to take your blood pressure. My mom was amazing, calm through it all. And she was very skeptical, trying to rule everything possible out. And so when it was attacking me, my blood pressure would be like extremely high. And then as soon as I said it just left me, she would take my blood pressure again, and my blood pressure would be normal. And she goes, that just doesn't make sense. That shouldn't change that fast and be like that. So she couldn't keep notes fast enough, and she grabbed a mini cassette recorder that she had in her purse. She's a school teacher, so she had that in her purse to take notes in that. And she started recording everything. And then about a half hour, on and off being attacked. And there was times she would grab onto me when I'm being attacked. And I go, look, my hair's standing. And she would touch me, and the electrical charge would make the hair on her arms stand up. And after it was over, we were like, where the hell's my dog at? And I had an Akita, which is like a big husky dog. And went to go look for the Akita, and she's hiding underneath the kitchen table, just shaking. She was terrified. And so after it was all done, I couldn't sleep, just hung out in the living room for a while and shared the experience, and we finally got to sleep. The next day, our friend that was a caregiver for my dad, she happened to visit. So we were telling her, what had happened. She's like, wow. And she goes, can I listen to the recording? And she's like, wow, I can hear the panic in Mike's voice. And then she goes, whoa, did you hear that? And on the tape, there was this other voice that was screaming. It said off is what it sounded like to us. And so that was the first EVP that I ever heard. And sadly, we lost that tape in the move from Florida to Tennessee. I wish I still had that. So later, that evening, my mom calls her mother, my grandmother, and she's telling her all that happened. And she's like in shock. And I said, well, I'll let her talk to you. I'm going to go in my bedroom. So as I start heading to the bedroom, I thought my dog was following me behind me. And because you could just feel like someone's coming up behind me. And all of a sudden, something grabs me into a bear hug. And I'm like totally paralyzed. And I couldn't talk. And I'm trying to walk. I was like Frankenstein trying to walk back to my mom to let her know I'm being attacked again. And she finally hears me, and she's on the phone with my grandmother. She's like, oh my God, he's being attacked again. So my grandmother and her telling him, she's like, start praying. So my mom grabs me and starts breaking into prayer. And it finally let go of me. And my mom was just like in shock. She's like, oh my God, you hear you're being attacked again. This is not a one-time, thing happening. And so after that, I was being attacked sometimes, almost every day. And then it would be quiet for a week, and then I'd get attacked again. And, but from the attacks, I'd be in bed, and you could just feel the negativity in the air. And I could feel someone grab me by the shoulders and just slam me into the headboard. There was times I was pushed into walls, things thrown at me, seeing shadow figures in my bedroom, standing at the door, I had a recliner in my bedroom, sitting in the recliner. I would wake up and see someone sitting in the recliner. And it was pretty terrifying. So we're at wit's end going, what do we do with this? And after my dad had passed away, this is before the haunting started, my mom and I finally had a free weekend to ourselves. And I said, let's go for a drive. So we went out for a nice drive. And when we were driving down one of the roads, I saw a sign said psychic fair. And my mom goes, hey, look, let's go to that psychic fair. And I said, yeah, I guess so. And I was pretty skeptical at the time, And so we pull in, we get in there, and they said, look, it's one price, and then you can select anybody on this board. And all the psychics and mediums had their own individual booth. So we paid for a reading, and then we picked whoever was on the menu. Well, me being skeptical, I said, anybody work with the police? Has anybody helped with the police with their abilities? And the lady goes, oh yes, we have one lady. She's helped the local police, the sheriff's office, and the state police here in Florida. So I was like, I'll take her. So I go over and meet her, and I tell her, I said, look, I'm really skeptical, and I'm not going to tell you anything. She goes, well, what do you want from me? And I said, a little potpourri, a little past, present, and future. And she's like, yeah, I can do that. And I said, well, I'm not talking to you anymore after that until you're done. And I'll tell you if you're right or wrong. And when she was done, I was like, holy cow. I mean, there was no generalization. She's like, at this age, this happened to you. At this age, you did this. And you were in a war, and your health is all messed up from it. And she was just dead on for so much. And so later on, I go to my mom. I said, maybe we can contact her, and she can tell us who the hell's, attacking me at night. Because I said, I don't think it's Dad. I mean, why would Dad be attacking me? I said, it just didn't make sense. And so we called her up, and she goes, well, I can't remove it. She goes, but I can tell you who it is or what it is. And we're like, hey, we're happy with that. Let's do that. So she comes over, and as soon as she walks in the house, she's like, okay, you definitely got 3 Mr. Nasties here. And she goes, they ain't happy. They're pissed off. So she goes into the living room, and she says, we need to light some candles. So she brought out this candle. Is about that big around. It's about 6 to 7 inches around, and it was about this tall, about 6 inches tall. And she puts this on her silk scarf she had on our coffee table, and she lit that. And she's telling us, she goes, white candles, watch the flame. They'll let you know if there's spirit activity, the spirits draw from the white light. I'm being skeptical. Okay. So my mom goes, do you want us to light up more candles? And she goes, do you have white candles? And so my mom goes, well, we don't have like what you got, but we have these little tea candles, you can use for your house, for potpourri, oils or whatever. Little tiny votive candle there, little tiny things. So we put a bunch of them across our fireplace mantle. There was about like 6 or 8 of them. and we lit all those. And so she starts going through the house, and she's saying that the spirits mostly like to be in my room. And so she asked me, she goes, Mike, go get some white paper and start cutting crosses. And she goes, you need to tape them on your beds, on your walls. This will help, put a protection around your bed. So I'm kind of skeptical. She goes to my mom. She goes, do you have a Bible? And so she goes, yeah, I have a big family Bible that day. And she's like, yeah, please go get it. So my mom goes and gets the Bible. And she brings it into my bedroom. And she says, put the Bible on the bed and open it up. So she opens it up. And soon after she opens the Bible, the pages start flipping. Now, if you looked at the early photos I posted in the group, that's the Bible that was put on my bed. And it's on a scale telling you how big it is and how much it weighs. So it's a pretty heavy book. And the Bible starts flipping pages. And I'm not there to witness this the first time. I'm out cutting paper. And I hear them freaking out. And I go, what's going on? And I hear my bedroom door slam. And I come running over, and they're like, the door just slammed on our face, and the Bible was flipping pages like a fan was blowing on it, and it lifted up and slammed shut. And I'm like, no way. And they're like, yeah. And so I opened the bedroom door. My bedroom is like ice cold. And this is Florida. And AC didn't make my room that cold. And you can see your breath in the air. So I'm going to hold up the Bible here. This is the actual Bible I brought for show and tell. See how thick it is. And it weighs quite a bit. The picture shows it on the scale. I think it's like 6 pounds or something like that. So I reopened the Bible, and the Bible's flipping pages again. And they're like, see, look, it's doing it again. And I'm like, oh my God. And all of a sudden the Bible literally lifts off my bed. Levitates and slams shut. And after it slams shut, the bedroom door slams right in our face again. And the psychic looked at it. She goes, I'm sorry, I can no longer help you. You need a priest. She goes, I'm out of here. And she goes out to the living room to get her candle. This big candle, when she comes out there, is totally melted on top of the scarf. And she didn't care. She just took the whole scarf and the hot wax and threw it in her satchel bag she had. And she's like, I'm sorry. If you want to talk to me, I'll meet you somewhere, but I'm not coming back in this house. And when she was doing that, oh my God, look at the fireplace. And all the tea candles, this little boat of tea candles, the flames were about a foot tall on every candle on the fireplace. And I was like, there's just no way. That's just crazy. So she leaves, and we had the caregiver lady that was a friend of the family. She was there as a witness. We invited her to be there as a witness. We wanted someone to be there as a witness for my mom and I. And she's like, oh my God. She goes, I don't know how you guys can stay here for the night. So my mom and I, we just, lit the candles and watched them. And I didn't sleep in my room that night. I ended up sleeping in the living room on the couch. And everything good? Sorry.
Is this the first time you guys had ever witnessed anything supernatural?
Yeah, this was like the first time that it was something really big for the haunting that everybody witnessed, where we had multiple witnesses seeing.
So it was quite a surprise to you. You weren't interested in the paranormal prior.
Right. And so we were blown away by this. And we didn't know what else to do. We asked the neighbor to come over one time, he, Baptist minister, and he came over and brought some other religious people, and they put hands on me and did a prayer. Well, after they left, the house got super cold. Lights in the living room. We had track lighting in the living room. They started strobing. My bedroom door slammed shut. And I said, I think all they did was piss it off even more. So one of the things that we did, we went to a Catholic church and talked to a Catholic priest. And the Catholic priest was trying to help us. And he had asked the diocese out of Orlando if he could come in and do an exorcism on the house. And sadly, the diocese said, since they're not Catholic, we can't help them, which was pretty crappy. And the priest felt bad, so he gave me his personal rosary as for protection. And I, thanked him. And but as time went on, I was constantly getting attacked. I would come home, And as soon as I walked in the door, I could just feel that negative energy sometimes when I came home from work. And I would just go, all right, whatever, bring it. And boom, I'd be thrown into a wall, or a light bulb would explode. And I even had friends sometimes, but I shared it with a couple of my closest friends. And I said, well, if you don't believe me, come on over. And I would provoke it. And then all of a sudden the track lighting would start strobing. Sometimes a light bulb would blow up. And then my friends would be running out the door and saying, if I ever come back over here, I'll meet you out in your driveway to pick you up, but I'm not coming back in. And so some other things that happened in the house, we witnessed, like the lights would flicker. The TV would come on by itself and flip through channels super, super fast. I couldn't even replicate it with a remote control. And then it would turn on and off, on and off, on and off, and then go through channels really fast. One time I was working late at night, and my mom called me to ask me if I was coming straight home from work. And I said, why? And she had just witnessed a big black mass come out of the fireplace, like a cloud of smoke. And it went across the room and went through the wall. And then my Akita started going crazy and barking at the corner. And my mom witnessed my Akita lifted up in the air and thrown into the wall. And she wanted me to come home because of that, and which I don't blame her. So finally, after multiple attacks and all kinds of crazy stuff happening, she had a student that was Native American Indian, and she had learned that his father was a medicine man, a shaman. And so she asked if he could come over and help us. And he said, yeah, he'd be happy to help us. And it'll take some time to get all the stuff that he needed for it. He contacted other medicine men from other tribes throughout the country. And then he brought over a ton of stuff and did a huge cleansing ceremony in my house. It took probably, I think, like 6 or 8 hours, tons of sage. I mean, the house was so smoky. I mean, my lungs were burning by the time it was done. And this was like in 95, mid 95, almost a year of activity when we had the medicine man come. And it cleansed it, and for about a year, nothing happened. We thought it was done. And my mom went on vacation to Georgia, and I was home by myself at the house. And again, about the same time, around 3 o'clock in the morning, my Akita come running in the bedroom, scared to death, jumped on my bed. And I was like, what's going on? And then all of a sudden, every door that I could see, from my bedroom doors, closet doors, hallway doors, the bathroom door I could see, was opening and closing, just slam, opening, closing. And so I yelled out. The Indian had taught me not to be, scared of it, and said you need to stand up to it. So I was like, all right. So I sat up out of bed and I said, that's it. I'm done with this. What do you want? Bring it. I cussed. Said, what the F do you want, kind of deal. And all of a sudden the door stopped and the energy went away for that evening. And then after that, little things here and there would happen. I started dating my wife in 95. And she had witnessed when she was in the bathroom, all these pictures I had in the bathroom were all moving on their own. It was like 5 or 6 8x10 photos, and they were all moving by themselves. They weren't even scratching the wall or anything. There was no noise, but they were just all moving back and forth like this. So that was pretty amazing to witness. And she had even seen one of the shadow figures there. Now, to go back, who was doing all the haunting? According to the medium, she believed it was 3 gentlemen that my dad knew in Vietnam, and that there was a thing that they were going to do for personal gain, and they had asked my dad to assist them, and he wasn't going to partake in it. She had said, your dad was the type of guy that signed up for God, country, and apple pie, and so he didn't go with them, and supposedly they were killed. And they had been haunting my dad since then. My dad used to have some terrible nightmares. We always chalked it up as PTSD, and I'm sure some of it was. And some of it was probably the haunting from these guys. So they were pissed off that he had crossed over, and that they decided to take it out on me. And so she felt that's what was causing the haunting. Later on, after my dad's death, we always, Dad was 22 years Army, and we learned some different things after his death that my dad did a lot more than just basic Army. He was connected with the CIA, and from things that we learned after his death. And in 2017, I met with a man that I talked to that knew my dad in Vietnam, and confirmed actions that my dad was involved in Vietnam, and which was wow. And ended up meeting one of the spirits from Florida that was connected to it. And I think it was because I was snooping and trying to find answers, about my dad and them. And I was in the living room all by myself. Monique and the kids had gone shopping, and I was laying on the couch, and all of a sudden I had like sleep paralysis hit me. I mean, it hit me hard, and I'm like, this is crazy what's going on. And then I could just feel this real strong negativity. It was the same feeling I felt in the haunting in Florida. And then all of a sudden, there standing in my living room at the archway was a guy in full tiger stripes, wearing a beret, and he had an orange scarf over his face. And so I couldn't talk, but I could process in my head. I said, I'm not scared of you anymore. And I said, what do you want? And when I did that, it tried to intimidate me and lean in towards me, and I could see through the scarf. It's like a decomposed partial face. You could see teeth and all that. It was scared the living crap out of me. And that's the last I've had an encounter with them connected with that. Am I still live, Monique? I just want to make sure.
Still doing good.
Okay. I just didn't see anything in the chat room, so I just wanted to make sure.
Someone was wondering if you had any equipment going to that.
No, I didn't turn on any REM
lights.
pods or any of that. No, I didn't do
have
that.
a couple motion lights in our living room going, but that's all.
Yeah, I can't view them from here. I'm in the kitchen at the table. So the haunting lasted for about 6 years, from 94 to 2000. 2000, I got married and moved out of the house, and didn't have any encounters with it until I was ready to move to Tennessee. My mom was moving to Tennessee also, and I went to do the closing for the house for them. And when I walked in the house to get it prepped for the closing, I felt that feeling I hadn't felt since Florida. That was the other encounter I had. And I was grabbed in a bear hug. I was paralyzed. And once it let go of me, I broke into prayer and thought, and it let go of me. And I ran out of the house and called my wife and told her, I said, I just got attacked. Yeah, Garland, I just saw your message there. Operation Phoenix. Yeah, my dad was part of the Phoenix program that we learned, which is pretty crazy. And my mom and I, we were pretty naive and didn't know about it, but my dad in New York, he used to work for RIT. It was a college in Rochester, New York. And my dad worked for the college ROTC there for a while. And all the way up till before he was diagnosed with cancer in '84, every summer he used to have lunch with Colby, who was the director of the CIA. And I learned that Colby was with my dad in Vietnam. They actually were in the same barracks practically. Colby would come and make sure the Phoenix program was going well. Where my dad was stationed at was headquarters for the Phoenix program. And this I learned a few years ago from one of the guys that worked with my dad. So didn't have any other ghost experiences there in Florida, thank God. And then moved to Tennessee in 2005. And there was a house when I lived in Florida. I found it online for sale, and we wanted to go look at it, but none of the realtors could find it. Whoever listed it put the wrong address. And I guess it was meant to be, because the day we were going to go make an offer on another house, we're at the real estate agent to meet her to go put an offer on this house, on this other house. And I look at their bulletin board and I said, oh my God, that's the house I found online. I loved it. Can we go see it? And she's like, yeah. She goes, I'm surprised, no one's bought that yet. And so she took us to the house, and we just fell in love with the house. And we said, never mind on the other house. We want to make an offer on this one. So we ended up buying this house in Burns, and we started moving in, and we didn't have much furniture in that, and the basement's finished. That's where my home office is out of. And I had set up a 6-foot table with a computer, and I thought Monique was coming downstairs to bring me something to drink. And I see this woman come down the stairs in a white dress, and her hair's in a bun, and couldn't hear her coming down the stairs. She just glided nice and even down the stairs. And she got to the bottom of the stairs, and she looked right at me and smiled. And I'm like, holy crap, I'm like in shock and paralyzed there for a moment. And she walked across the room and went right through the wall and disappeared. And after that, I yelled at the wife. I said, oh my God, we bought a haunted house. And she's like, no. And then I said, yeah, I just saw a woman just, go through the wall. And here I'm terrified. I was scared. I did not want to deal with another haunting. I got PTSD from war and PTSD from the haunting in Florida. So as time went on, our daughter, who was 3 at the time, she started talking about seeing a little boy outside to play with. And she kept on wanting to go out and play with him. Well, every time we went to go look outside, there was no boy in our yard. And I finally went to neighbors and asked, who's got the little boy? And everybody's like, no boys here. You guys are like the first family in a while that's got kids. We're so excited to have kids in the neighborhood again. So as time went on, our daughter in her room started playing with what we would say it's an imaginary friend, but it wasn't imaginary. And she was having tea parties with Joe, little boy. And as time went on, my wife was the next person to see Joe. I thought the cats had climbed on the bed. And I said, could you get the cats off the bed? You could literally feel the bed move and someone sitting on it. And she sat up and gasped. And she saw a little boy sitting there looking at her. And he jumped off the bed and ran out of the room. And then later on, I saw the boy in the kitchen sitting at the table. I came up from my office, and he was at the table looking at me and smiling. And then just vanished. But we've seen a little boy in our house, seen the woman several times. My daughter's seen the woman. Several of my team members have seen the woman. I've seen multiple shadow figures here at the house. We also got a little boy, a little girl. There was one time we came back visiting the parents for dinner, and when we pulled in the driveway, Monique and the kids saw a boy and a girl playing on our swing set, and they were like, who's the kids on our swing set? And they jumped off the swing set when we pulled in the driveway. They ran across the driveway, and they didn't make it to the other side. They vanished. So that was pretty wild. We've had footsteps on the porch. Sounds like cowboy boots walking out there. Go out there and check, and nobody's there. My team, Volunteer State Paranormal Research, who's done a lot of research at my house, have had all kinds of experiences here, which is pretty amazing. But when I first moved here in 2005, I was not looking for paranormal. It wasn't until 2006 I was watching some of the paranormal shows, and I was like shocked. I go, these poor families, they have these hauntings, and they're not, providing comfort. I think they're terrifying them more than anything. So I go to the wife. I said, maybe I can share my experiences with people and let them know that they're not alone, that they're not crazy, that this stuff is for real. And so I went and researched and found a team in Nashville, and I worked with them for a while, and I learned a lot and conquered my fear because I was terrified going looking for it in the beginning. And I went to some of the biggest places to go. My first big place was Sloss Furnace, and that was in 2007. And that was pretty scary there. We had one of the members had an arm come out of the wall reaching at him. He about pushed me out of the way, climbing over me to get away from it. And most shadow figures I've ever seen at once, which was 7 at Sloss Furnace. And you could see them all coming down the hallway, one right after the other, head and shoulders. And it was pretty amazing. And then we saw a full body apparition in the death tunnel there, which was amazing. There was multiple people for that. And so that's what got me into paranormal research, to help people. And I've done a lot of cases. I've done everything from residential homes and historical locations, public schools, hospital. So we've done some pretty interesting cases. And I've even done a couple of country celebrities' homes. Can't give the names. Had to sign disclosures on them, but they were pretty crazy cases also. Any questions? Winnie, can you help with the questions, or is there any question? The woman in the green dress. The woman in the green dress was at I'm trying to remember, Clement Railroad Museum. That was in the town. I used to be a docent at the Clement Railroad Museum. My wife and daughter saw her, and that was pretty amazing. And then we also have the lady that was at Rippavilla. Her dress was also green. That was pretty amazing.
Well, the amazing thing is that some of us saw the woman at the museum as a ghost, and other people only saw her as a shadow figure. So it all depends. It was depending on the people watching.
Oh, I forgot one more story. Another afterlife encounter. I posted some pictures, and there's a picture of my grandmother with my dad's mom. And after my dad passed away, we called her to let her know that he had passed away. And we're talking to her on the phone, and my grandmother said, well, since my son's passed, I guess there's no reason to stay in contact. And I was like, well, I would hope you would still stay in touch with you. You know, I'm your grandson. I would hope to, stay. And she goes, no, there's no reason to. And she goes, I wish you the best. And she hung up, and she didn't answer letters, and pretty much ended our relationship. And it was really sad, and later on I learned that she had a very lonely life towards her end. And 2012 here in Tennessee, my grandmother lived in up by the St. Lawrence River in Ogdensburg, New York. And she had a pretty rough life. And so in 2012, June of 2012, I was woken up at 6 o'clock in the morning and felt like someone was there. And I looked towards my bedroom window, and I could see through the blinds someone pacing on my front porch. And I was like, who the hell's on my porch at 6 o'clock in the morning? So I get dressed as fast as I can, and I go out to the front door, and I open the door, and I look to the left, and I see this woman with her back towards me, and she's crying. And I said, can I help you? Is everything okay? And she turns around, and it was my dad's mom, my grandmother. And shocked to see her. And she's like, Mike, I'm just so sorry the way I treated you. And she goes, will you please forgive me? And I said, yeah, I mean, you've had a real rough life. I don't blame you. I'm just sorry that's how you decided to, end our, relationship. And she's like, I'm so sorry. I did wrong, and I need your forgiveness. And so I said, well, I forgive you. And she walked up to me and reached out, and we hugged. And I felt her clothes, in the embrace, her body, her frail old body. And she hugged me, and I could feel her hugging me. And it was the most amazing feeling of love. It was so intense. And then she started turning into this bright white light where I couldn't keep my eyes open. It was like someone taking a mag light and putting it right in your eyes. And even with my eyes closed, it was so intense. It was hurting my eyes. And all of a sudden I noticed with my eyes closed, the light was getting dimmer and dimmer. And so all of a sudden I don't feel her presence there anymore. And I open my eyes, and I'm standing out there with my arms out like this. And I look around, and I'm like, what the hell just happened? And she's gone. And I'm like wondering, is there any neighbors up? They see me out here on the porch, And I go back in the house, and I'm just in shock. I go back to my side of the bed, and I'm laying there, and my wife woke up, and she's like, are you okay? And I said, I don't know. I don't know what just happened. And she goes, what do you mean? And I said, I just saw my grandmother. We just had a talk on the porch. And she's like, what? And I said, yeah, she's here. And I said, well, not anymore. She's gone now. And my grandmother had been dead for about 7 years. So that was a big shocker. And so my wife goes, well, let me go get something, something for you to drink, make some coffee and have breakfast, and we'll talk about it. So she had my coffee ready, and so I go to get out of bed, and I sat up, and when I went to try to stand, I got so dizzy I fell over and hit the wall hard and hit my nightstand next to the bed real hard. And she comes in, are you okay? And I said, oh my God, quick, grab a trash can. And I started throwing up, and felt like I just got off a bad amusement ride. I was so dizzy. And later on, I had talked to some mediums I know that they were saying it was the energy of the spirit, that my body was not used to that energy connecting, with my body, source. So it was pretty crazy. And it took me over 24 hours to feel normal after that. It was really intense, but an amazing experience. I mean, the love feeling was so intense, and it was great. I think she came to ask for forgiveness, and she was able to, cross over. So that was another amazing experience I had in 2012. Russell Church, Rippavilla. Years ago, my team were one of the first people to go in there to investigate it. And probably one of the most haunted locations I've ever been to. Seen full body apparitions, a woman, Union soldier, Confederate soldier. The Confederate soldier was awesome because I was in the cellar, and I had a family of 5. I was doing a charity event, and I had a mother, her 3 sons, and her sister, and all my equipment was going crazy. And my motion lights, the tri-field meter was pegging, and they're like, what's going on? And then we start seeing these sparks popping in the air in the corner. And I said, just focus on that corner. I feel something's going to show itself. And sure enough, a man stepped out of the corner and looked right at us. And I thanked him. I said, I see you standing right there. And the woman, before I said that, she goes, are you seeing what I'm seeing? I said, well, if you're talking about the man standing in the corner, and they're like all gasping and speechless. And so I had thanked him for showing himself, and he stepped back into the darkness. And where his face was, all of a sudden appeared a red ball, about the size, I would say, a golf ball size almost. And then it did this pop, like a big flash. It made a loud crack, and a bright flash, like a camera flash, had gone off. And that's the only time I've ever seen anything like that. It was really amazing. But yeah, Rippavilla is amazing. I don't think there's anything scary there. We've had spirits from Rippavilla come to my house asking for help. I had a lady that I still believe is buried on the property there. She came to my house quite a few times. We had disembodied voices in the house asking for help, and her waking me up, and I was having vivid dreams of things she was showing me that I didn't even know about Rippavilla until I shared it with them, and it connected with it. So that was pretty amazing. So yeah, Rippavilla is one of my favorite places. We even had Nathaniel show up at the house. Woke my wife up. She woke up and saw him floating above the bed, looking down at her, and she about pushed me out of the bed trying to get away from him. It gave her a spook. Amazing place there. But see.
Jennifer was talking about her son.
Yeah, I'm reading the question. Yeah, I think family members are still around. I don't think we disappear after we die. And I don't think that, there was people like, I've had religious people attack me saying, no, once you die, you go straight to heaven, and they can't come back. I don't believe in that. I mean, my dad's made numerous contacts over the years. And then other people I've talked to. I don't think there's what they say, locks on the gate, of heaven, if there is a gate. Some people just have unfinished business. We did in Nashville, it was really crazy. We did 3 suicide cases within a 2-year span, and they were all close to each other. It was really amazing. And every one of them, it was the person that ended their life was trying to let their family member know that they made a big mistake and that they were asking for forgiveness. And luckily we had the EVPs and the data to show them, hey, this family member is asking for forgiveness. And it was amazing because after they had the talk, I'd have them sit down like one-on-one, at an empty chair, and we'd say, just imagine they're sitting there, and they probably were, and they would have this talk, and the people had peace, after they were done with it, and the activity came to an end in the house, which is pretty amazing. Let's see.
Would you like to comment on spirits when they come home with you? They don't often come home with you, but what do you do then?
Oh, sometimes they follow us home, and if they do, I usually tell them, say, look, I can't talk to you right now. You need to go, and they usually do. I've had a few that were that would keep on trying to bother me to wake me up and say, look, I need to talk, and I would pull out the recorder and find out what they needed. Try to do the best that I can. Sometimes
I'll talk with Jesus if they don't.
Right. But it's nothing terrifying, nothing like the Florida haunting. And after learning so much about the paranormal, if I had the knowledge I have now back then, I probably wouldn't have been terrified. And I go on cases, I've been literally picked up and thrown into walls, pushed. I had my left ear burnt. It just suddenly got hot, and the next day that whole ear peeled like a bad sunburn. So I've been attacked several times on cases. And usually when I do, I just go, hey, thanks for letting me know you're here. Now let's talk. You gave me yourself, because I've had EVPs where I was one case I was working at in North Nashville, something came up and grabbed me in a bear hug. And after it let go of me, I go, wow, thank you. You just let me know that you're here. So come in and talk to my mic, and I'll get an FU or get out, and I'll go back with that recording and say, here you are telling me this. So you just gave yourself away. So why are you mad? Why do you want me gone? So it's the way I look at it. I try to keep calm. I used to be a police officer, so I try to handle my cases like it's a police case.
Do you have an opinion on what happens to people after they pass when they're not contacting you as someone else? What do they do? Where do they go?
Oh, if they haven't made contact?
Well, if they've talked, like, let's say they talk to you, what happens next? Where do you think they are?
I'm not sure. I mean, I think there's a, heaven, kind of deal. I think that's where they go, where your family and other relatives are there waiting for you. There's a great movie called Astral City, and there's a real famous medium, Chiquio Xavier, out of Brazil. Amazing guy. You can Google him. His life experience as a medium was pretty amazing. And there's a book called Astral City that's based on his contacts with supposedly the spirit world, and how the spirits describe heaven to him. And pretty amazing movie on that. I think it nails it pretty good.
And then there's some that are stuck here.
Yeah, I think some are stuck here because they're attached to something, they just can't let it go. And, Rippaville, I've had some amazing EVPs where we've asked them, why are they still there? And I believe it's Nathaniel and Susan answering it. They said, this is my house. It's beautiful. And Rippaville definitely is beautiful. They've done an amazing restoration. We've asked them, did they like what they did with the house? And we've had, clear yes replies. So, and I've done that with other places. We had a private case in Nashville where the guy was renovating the house, and the activity spurred up when he was renovating the bathroom. The bathroom had this rose wallpaper, and he started steaming that off the walls, and that's when the activity spurred up. And I brought in a medium. She's saying, there's an older lady here that used to live here, and we researched the name, and it matched to the property. And she was saying that she was pissed off that was her favorite, I guess that was her pride and joy. It was decorating that bathroom, and she loved that wallpaper, and she was mad that he was taking it out. And we had EVPs of her, confirming that. And so we had the owner sit down and explain to her that it's no longer her house, and that it's his now to enjoy. And if she wanted to stay and coexist with him, she was welcome to. But if she didn't like it, then if she was going to cause trouble, she needed to go. And after we had that talk, the activity came to a stop, which was pretty cool.
And then Amy asked, have you ever done any landmarks?
Probably closest, for like a historical landmark is the Carton Plantation. We had access one time for the cemetery at night, and we did some EVP sessions there. And I had a friend from high school. He had a relative that served with the South Carolina unit that was killed there in the Battle of Franklin. And I found his great uncle's headstone. And I asked the question while I was there. I said, "Did anybody know this person?" And I had an EV reply that said, "I saw him fall," which is pretty amazing. That was a term that was used back then when someone, died in combat. And so that was probably landmark wise. I mean, I've done famous places like Sloss Furnace. I've been there twice. Very active and scary. And I've seen people get hurt there because they were provoking. And then Waverly Hills up in Louisville, Kentucky. Big famous sanatorium up there. That was very active. But most of it's just local history and private residence that I do.
We did a couple schools.
Yeah, we did schools. But well-known places that have been on TV, I would say, would be Sloss Furnace and Waverly Hills. And the Carton Plantation. Rippavilla. I'm the one that did Rippavilla for Tennessee Crossroads. Tennessee Crossroads is special. We've been on every Halloween since they aired it. They called me this past year when we were on there, and I told them, I said, "Wow, 9 years doing the Halloween special." I said, "We're becoming like the Charlie Brown special." Any more questions? Let me plug here real quick. This is a book called Afterlife Encounters. It was written by Julie and Brett Oldham. And you can find it on Amazon. And Brett is a friend of mine. He wrote the book. It's all on different people's experiences with the paranormal, afterlife encounters, near-death experiences. And I'm featured in chapter 3 about my dad's experience that I shared with you when he came back.
And then Jennifer asked, do you think some spirits are evil or have bad intentions?
I don't believe in demons. Say that's like a religious belief, I believe. I think there's nasty people, just as there is walking the earth right now. And I think those same nasty people that can't cross over and got grudges, just as nasty in the spirit realm. So that's what I think from when it comes to negativity. Like I said, I've gone on cases and I've been pushed and had nasty words said at me, and I just thank them. I said, "Thanks for letting me know you're here. Now you confirmed that the client's not crazy. There's something here. Now let's talk and see what's going on. What's the problem?" We had one lady for 5 years. She was terrified. She had some really bad psychics telling her what she had there, and they were charged. One lady charged her $300 for a can, which I call Ghost Be Gone spray. And she had bought a case of 12 at $300 a pop. So yeah, she got ripped off. And I had brought in 3 different mediums, and I'd never share any of the mediumship stuff with the client unless it matches our data and our research. That's the only time I share it. And I don't let the mediums talk to the client. And so we came from our research that she had a man that was a World War I veteran. And when she bought the house, she had found a flag in the closet, and it was caught, it was mildew and all that. So she had one of her house employees take it outside and burn it. And that's when it started all the activity. She was scared to death to go to her second floor. She was intimidated. And her daughter, who young kids, you can usually see spirits. She was seeing the older man pacing the floor and pissed off and yelling. And so I had her go buy a new American flag, and I helped her fold it properly and had her go in that room and apologize and put the new flag in the closet. And she now uses that upstairs, no problem at all. She actually made the room that she was terrified of into an exercise room that she uses, which is pretty amazing. Shadow figures, I think my theory on shadow figures, there's different types. But the one that's, I feel that's like a human silhouette that is just an apparition that's not fully manifested. That's my theory. And from that is because my wife and daughter, they saw a full body apparition at the museum I worked at. And as the lady was going up the stairs, the apparition started getting darker. The color went away and it turned into like a black shadow, and then it just dissipated into a mist and then vanished. So that's my theory. I've had shadow figures interact, which is pretty amazing. I've seen them standing or peeking around a corner. You'll see like head and shoulders look around the doorway, and I'll wave at it, and then the shadow figure will wave back. I was at Rippavilla. They were doing a public event, and this lady and I were on the second floor, and I said, you can stick with me if you want, because I said, there's something in that room if you want to see something. So everybody else left, and her and I were up there, and I said, watch the bathroom door. And sure enough, she gasps. She sees a head and shoulders peek out. And so I'm standing there behind her, and I wave, and the shadow figure waved back at us. So they definitely can interact. And I've had EVPs where I was like, I saw you, who are you? And reply back. So that's my theory, is most of the shadow figures are just apparitions that just haven't fully manifested into where you see the clothes and the flesh tone. Let's see. Oh yeah, Joseph Esco that's in the room. He's in the book too. He's in Brett's book. There's quite a few there's some amazing stories in here of people's encounters with their near-death experiences to spirit encounters. It's pretty amazing. Brett did a great job on the book. And you can find it on Amazon.com. Afterlife Encounters. Any more questions? Did I miss any questions? Or you scan up here. And again, thank you for everybody for tuning in. I really appreciate it. And I hope you enjoyed tonight.
There are a lot of our friends in the room. Do really appreciate it, guys. It's good to see you guys here.
I missed this question. Jennifer said, do some spirits have evil intentions? I don't know. They can definitely manipulate your mood. I've been on cases where, people suddenly just get angry, they just get overwhelmed saying, I just want to punch you right in the face, kind of deal. And we've told the person, go step outside and sometimes smudge them with sage just to remove that negative energy. I think what they're picking up is the feelings and the emotions. They're like empathic, picking that up for what the spirit's feeling. And I think that can influence you. I did this case. It was amazing. I knew nothing about the case. All I was told was, you're coming to help with this cleansing of a home. I was helping this team in Nashville, and it involved a country celebrity's home in Nashville. And it was on Easter Sunday of all days. And I had to leave. Sadly, Monique's relatives from Oklahoma came to visit. And I said, I'm sorry, I got to go. I got to go help exercise a house. It was kind of funny, their expression on their face. And so I arrived, and as soon as I walked in the door of the house, I dropped to my knees. I felt super sick, and it felt like my stomach was on fire, like someone stabbed me with a knife. And they had to take me outside and get some fresh air. And they're like, what are you feeling? I said, I feel really nauseated, lightheaded, like I'm on drugs, and my stomach's on fire. And they were like blown away, because they said their research showed that there was a man that was a drug dealer that was killed right across the street. He was under the influence and hit a telephone pole and went right through the windshield and slit his stomach wide open. So they felt that I was empathically picking up all of his emotion and feeling. And once I shook that off, that case was amazing. Witnessed disembodied voices, and when they were smudging, he appeared in the smoke. It was like a scene out of The Invisible Man, which was pretty amazing. You could see his whole face outlined in the smoke.
Excuse me, Mike, could you tell us how it feels when a spirit goes straight through you, like he walks through you?
Oh, yeah. Well, I've had two different feelings. One is like ice cold. I mean, you get the shivers, like, whoa, right through you. And the other one is I've had it where the team witness, this is at Octagon Hall. It was about the size of a golf ball of light shot from this room and went right through my chest and went right out me. And it felt like I stuck my finger in a wall outlet. It was like electrical shock. That's what it felt like. Real strong electrical shock. So they gave me a little spook, because I hadn't had that feeling before. Usually it's like a cold shiver.
And sometimes it can even make you feel sick.
Yeah, you can be nauseated. I've thrown up and had people get real sick. Their stomach will do like a flip, it feels like. Thank you, Cammie. Well, I guess that's it. If you have any more questions, I'd be happy to answer them. Thanks for joining. I really appreciate it and hope you enjoyed it. Let's see. Yeah, the seance event was amazing, and Susie got whacked in the head, and I actually witnessed it on the Connect. You saw a big orb come up behind her, which was amazing. And then we also had the REM pods going off at that time when she was making the connection. That was pretty amazing. Oh, that's right. Yeah, I had one go through me at Beth's dad's house. We had a brand new guy on the team that night, and it went through me, and I was like, whoa. And I turned around, and the guy was gone, and I went looking for him. Everybody said he just went out the door and jumped in his car, and I never saw or heard from the guy ever again. So I guess I scared him.
Garland asked to see your paranormal gear, but we do not have it out.
Oh, I don't have my paranormal gear nearby. It's all packed up in its briefcases and all that.
What is the name of the book? One more time.
Oh, Afterlife Encounters, called Ghost Spirits and Near-Death Experiences by Julie and Brett Oldham. And I'm in chapter 3. I'll post a link on the event page, and if you want to look for it on Amazon. You're welcome, Jennifer. Thank you for coming and listening. Yeah, Kathy Ireland, if you're still there. Yeah, also walking through spirit also feels like going through spider webs like a cobweb. Very welcome, Manya. Thank you for coming. And thank you, Shirley. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Thank for everybody for coming. And wish you all good night. Stay safe from the virus. Don't go out unless you have to. Wishing everybody a good night. And I'm going to sign off. Unless there's a question. I'll give you 1 minute for if anybody's got any more questions before I disconnect, just in case someone's got a question.
Thank you so much, everyone.
You're welcome, Joan. Thank you.
Yes, I agree.
You,
stay home. It's better for everyone to get this virus done. So everyone stay home as much as possible so we can eventually go out.
Susie says bye, Monique.
Have a good day, Susie.
Good night. Thank you. Have a good night.
Take care, everyone.
Bye.